Chapter 4 The Whispering Tree. Upon reaching Musambwa, the scintillating path faded away just as soon as it appeared, minimizing into the darkness of her waters once more. Somehow, that darkening sparked inspiration in Nu. Inspiration to imitate the disappearing act by reverting their own body into an aqueous state. After all, it'd be the safest way to drift leeward without stirring any sounds. So, while keeping as low to the lake floor as possible, Nu's body moved in tumbling currents, disturbing the sand. The glow from their magenta aura was clouded enough by the sandy water so as not to have allowed for unwanted detection. When the coast was clear, the Numen solidified and elevated their head above sea level in pursuit of the reassurance that no other humans were on the island. It was late enough to be dark, but early enough for the first fishermen to have begun their day. Nu couldn't take any chances with bioluminescence. Remembering that its level of vibrancy manifested based on their emotional state, Nu did their best to remain calm and collected. Since having first disappeared into the lake, they'd become a sort of urban legend to local mankind. There were rogue sightings here and there, of course, but other than that, Nukolo stayed hidden, immovable, and centered at the bottom. Out of sight, out of mind. After having patiently surveyed the island's perimeter in a silent and circular water waltz, Nu finally decided that the coast was clear to proceed onto land. They'd be walking more by faith than by sight, since their general vision on land atrophied after the renaming. But it would be no issue. They knew faith to be a sense of greater accuracy anyway. As the water dripped down their chest, then arms and hands, they slowly rose above the shoreline, continuing their sentry in alert anticipation for any occulted lines of sight. Nukolo scanned the area by way of their sense of touching empathy. It was another ability inherited at the renaming, one that bolstered its proficiency whether at land or at sea. For this, Nukolo was thankful. It worked by feeling the energetic signatures of trapped emotions, both within the bodies of other organisms and within the body of the unified field of awareness. Fortunately, within and throughout the circumference of their current position, there were none. Just one moment. I'm going to clear my throat and drink a bit of water. Yum. Thank you, water. Okay. While walking with the waves to the shoreline, the cool lake breeze began to dance on their skin. Wind chill was colder than water chill. After having lived naked at the bottom of the lake for so long, Nu had grown lucid in control of their body's temperature. This along with being the only glowing, naked one in the lake, brought Nu a much longed-for sense of vulnerable invulnerability, one that they never could seem to feel with humans. A deep, unexpressed part of the demigod always wanted to be seen, to be appreciated, to be celebrated even, but by the correct seers, appreciators, and celebrators, not by those who always had something to hide and therefore always had something to bait. Here and now, the island was empty, with not a fisherman in sight. Once fully on the dry, sandy shore, Nukolo walked on toward the center, body in graceful symmetry of motion, while their mind remained quietly steadfast until they'd find the largest tree that Dingonek mentioned. The forest was up ahead, with all its proponents in the forest standing at around the same size. Even from here, Nukolo could see the top of that largest tree. Though thick in its girth, it still gently swayed in its own way with the dawning zephyr. Actually entering the forest was a welcome change of scenery. At the very moment their body began fully shivering from the chill of the lake breeze, the plentiful leaves helped to guard and keep each extremity warm and covered. Nukolo hadn't really seen or touched plant life on land before. There were times before they'd come to the lake, but the trees all seemed like background players then, and still, throughout their lives, they had seen, heard, and witnessed the beginning of the life of Nu. Although the wax of these leaves' outer layers was brisk at the Numan's first touch, it was a temperature worth getting used to, and one far more manageable than the frigidity of the air. As Nukolo walked on, the plants grew in size until finally coming to a point that Nu intuited to be the center of the isle. Here, there was a central megatree around which all other plant life sustained themselves. It was like their core, and even the core of the forest itself. Vines thrived between the trees on the outskirts of the core of the natural colossus, in delicate embrace of the steadfastness of their central subject of affection. The core stood blatantly above all the others, the tops of its canopies, all of varying sizes, blowing in the morning wind, as if to communicate to one another. The trunk stood thickly rooted in adulation of its own presence, exuding a sort of parental pride up to the various different branches. Nukolo couldn't help but grin at the distinctively new vegetation. Now, their adventure would finally begin. After placing the obsidian jar down on the soil, they promptly opened the nacreous one, and with a clack of the lid, the scent of her waters rushed out, amplified by the energy of the crystals in which they were contained. Lay her upon the roots of our roots, and let us soak. Whisperings of new voices filled the mind of the demigod, convincing them to do exactly as they were told, to pour the waters ritualistically upon the largest root of this largest tree. Now you must wait in nourishment. Nourishment. The voices continued, becoming indecipherable as their volumes rose. They cut through Nu's ears like the tempestuous rushing waves of her lakehood's intention, whispering sweet nothings of sand and foam to the one who had become her emissary. These affectations rippled through Nukolo's head until finally accumulating at their own core, where Nu's heart zapped their entire body with cold electricity. The only way to ground it was to be seated. So, again, Nu was obedient to her lakehood's magnetic directive and sat upon the largest wet root of that largest tree, waiting in the nourishment of their offering for whatever was to happen next. Chapter 5. The Drooping. The spirit of the ocean inside Nukolo's heart kept their bodies still with modest intention. Or maybe it was the soul of the tree on whose root they sat. Or maybe it was the place where those two beings met and intermingled. Probably it was all of these things. Either in all ways, the OceanHeart's physical form was kept eerily still like a mountain. Beneath the serenity of their outer shell, the spirit of the ocean stirred, churned, and frothed like a tropical storm until finally overcoming the body of Nu and instantly transmigrating back to Pa's tank. The waking dream had begun once more. The demigod opened their eyes in the confined boundaries of Pa's enclosure, coming back to the very moment they'd left, as if they barely blinked. The blaring silence ever present in the tank proved this. Pa broke that silence. I had a feeling it would come soon, but not that soon. Nukolo looked at her with sullen eyes. Her body, once strong, curious, and battle-ready in its need for uninhibited freedom, now drooped to a melancholic, defeated posture. I know, started Nukolo, slowly remembering their last conversation. It was about her impending death. I'm sorry. There was a nonchalant neutrality embedded in their voices' vibration, and it was calming where it should have been awkward. I guess this is why I'm here? I guess, started Pa. This is why you're here. She let out a huge sigh that tingled every part of Nu's body. Is there anything you want to get off your chest? Asked the demigod. Pa's melon faced Nukolo head on, contrastingly huge compared even to the demigod's entire body. Then she swam around the tank in circles. Her circling hesitated, and she decided to drift back over to Nu. I just miss my family. I thought there was at least some hope. But, Nukolo led on, it's not that there isn't. She gave an annoyed, slightly agitated, yet quizzical look. What do you mean? Well, it may not be possible to get free in the way you want to right now. The Numan's eyes twinkled with solace. But you will still find the freedom you long for. Freedom is all-encompassing, inevitable, so there is no way that you won't find it. You are part of what is all, so it has to encompass you one day. She sighed again, this one not nearly as heavy. I think I get what you mean. Freedom in death and beyond. Yeah. But it's like, then why the hell did I have to go through all this just to get here? Shouldn't real freedom supersede life and death alike? I don't know. Nu's voice weakened with bewilderment. Why did the humans have to take me and trap me? Look at me. Nu's pupils looked right into hers. They were spheres of unseen light, filled with sparks that human eyes couldn't or wouldn't presently comprehend. I'm beautiful, and I was free. I was welcome to do whatever I wanted. Sure, I was different, but I was still loved. I had Gran. I had Mom. I had a place, a role in my family, a voice. Even if it sounded shrill to those closest to me, it still sounded. It still spoke. These humans hear nothing of the pain in my cries. Their hearts are no worthy substitute. What do you know anyway? Her face morphed into a scowl. You're one of them. I don't know why I didn't see it at first, but you are. Nu's heart was hurt, as if a harpoon barricaded through their chest and ripped it out on the other side. Yes, I am. Sadness whirred throughout their voice, a feeling deep and dark enough to seem defeated. They noticed the sadness. Then they spoke again. But that doesn't mean I'd do the same thing to you. For some reason, I came to you. I was called to you, and I came. Nukolo let out a heavy sigh. It tingled every part of Potkao's body. Besides, Nu began with a renewed sense of confidence, I have a secret. I'm not only human. I'm so much more. I'm a demigod. I figured. Po responded coolly. I could tell based on your skin. No human I've ever seen looks like that. I've seen some kinda pink, but you took it to a whole nother level. Her smirk hid the impending death. Even still, your body resembles them. Your arms and your legs, your face. They're all the same. You're all the same. She was a bit calmer now, her face lessening in strain. But you are different. You're eminent. Eminent. Nu echoed in calm confusion. Eminent. It's a full, forward, pure representation of the flowing of God within someone, throughout someone, amongst someone. You are the result of the emanator. You are the eminent, the emin. You're not half of anything, not half God, not half human, not a demigod. Instead, you're all God, all human, all the time. Eminent. It seemed like there was more to that word in her memories, but her face blanked out and refused to feel whatever feelings were stuck on the memory. Eminent. Okay. Pain surfaced in Nu's face. The humans have hurt me too. When I was born, they took everything from me and left me to perish. And what's worse, they made me believe that I wanted to. That was heavy to hear, especially for one with ears as acute as Paul's. It wasn't just the directness of the sentence, but the knife-like nature of brutality behind it. She spoke curtly. She spoke curtly. Be more like this, actually. She spoke curtly, her unyielding intention cutting the tension of Nu's vulnerability. I sure don't want to. Want to what? Responded Nu, who was lost in the harshness of their feeling. Perish, Paul added. Oh, I see. And I get that. Nukolo spoke from a full heart, one that poured all that it could into their new, old friend's sudden sense of emptiness. And I don't understand how all of this works. I don't. I'm just here. Something inside the core of this whale, whose descendants would one day be called killers, couldn't help but appreciate that fact. This weird pink creature was here with her in the final days of her life. That, at the very least, was something to be grateful for. Her face finally relaxed. You know, my gran used to tell me stories about what happens when any creature dies. Her eyes plunged deep down into themselves, warm with nostalgic joy. She said, a light comes to us, and we are transformed to a place of no forgetting. We remember. Her pupils looked up to the surface of the water, where artificial light scintillated in mockery of either the moonlight or the sunlight. And what a relief it is to remember. A fizzy sound began to quietly invade Nukolo's aura. That sounds like what would happen. It makes sense, Nu remarked, not yet noticing the sound. All we do here is forget anyways. The eminent poked their finger inside their ear, making the same agitated, quizzical face that Po had worn before. What's wrong? She asked. You don't hear that? Their face scrunched, annoyed by the sound, annoyed by the noise. No, I hear nothing. It's dead silent in here, and it has been since I came here. That's probably the worst part of it. Sadness struck her once again, but it wasn't enough to even make a dent in the joy she got from remembering Gran's wise words. The only things I can hear are my thoughts, and they echo and haunt me. She shuddered. Oh, well, I definitely hear something else, and it's getting louder. Potkau's expression presented a touch of fear. The OceanHeart hadn't seen it before this moment, but the cetacean clearly had two faces. One was her physical face, with eyes on the sides, separated by her melon and a mouth full of sharp, conical teeth. The second face was energetic, bold, and present on the front of her melon. In some ways, it looked human. I think it means I'm leaving, Nukolo muttered. Leaving? But you just got here. I know, but it doesn't work like that. No time will have passed for you. I'll still be here, remember? Then the soul of the Numan shifted. I love this book so much. It's why I wrote it. Thank you, water. Chapter 6. Hissingland. The spirit of the ocean returned to Nukolo's body, still steady on the largest tree's largest root in an instant. Or maybe it was that the tree simply became aware of their form once more and had never even left in the first place. It was the whispers that penetrated dimensions and brought them back. The voices crescendoed, first becoming hissings, then howlings. When the height of their volume was breached, they receded back to hissings once more, to remain within the strange center of chaotic equilibrium. The more poignantly Nu oscillated in and out of their meditation, the closer the hissings felt to their ears. Eventually, time began to blur itself against space, and the border of their body was not as easily felt as it was before. The music of torrential waters saturated each joint, seeming to tear them at their tendons in a kind of harmonic dismemberment. Nukolo could do nothing in response to this, only nothing. So they continued to sit, acting as a tuning fork for the hissings, to the point that their bodies' vibrations both produced and reacted to intense pleasure. It was as if the very stillness that Nukolo embodied led them to this merciless reverberance, shook in all directions, and especially inward by the wake of her waters. Or were they her waters? Was the source still from within the humble jar of nacre, and the modest wetness upon the root on which they sat so peacefully? No, it couldn't be, and so it wasn't. Although these hissings were similar to her flow in cadence and in pitch, in reality they emitted from the lipless grins of the island's resident cobra population. They were the largest serpents Nukolo had ever seen, with gazes like daggers, stabbing Nu's mind. Looking into their many eyes mesmerized the Emin to a point of calm alert that they hadn't reached before, the trance that danced beneath the first trance's skin. As the scales and bodies of these snakes and their seductive hymns began to differentiate themselves, the volume tapered back to hushed whisperings, enduring until there was not but a faint, high-pitched ringing securely struck from the drums within each of the Emin's ears. Supple, succulent, sagacious. Each of the cobra's mental crosshairs met their nexus at Nu's heart, which beat steady and true beneath the brazen chest, if not a bit nervously. Their body, still somehow paralyzed by all the sound for which it had just been a vessel, seemed to direct all anxiety to this strongest muscle, compelling it to beat far quicker and more sporadically. All they could do now was listen. Where is Ananti? She must choose who will receive the ocean heart in their fangs. In doing their best not to worry, Nukolo was pleasantly surprised at how well they were faring. The previous cavalcade of sounds on the verge of violation had somehow left the eminent in such a state of peace that they couldn't help but feel reassured despite the discordance. Somehow, this reassurance traced its seed of origin within the cobras themselves. Come to us, Ananti. They beckoned for their leader. As their voices grew in presence, the ground began to shake, quake, and shift in response. Then she emerged from the treetops, a cobra about 3 times larger than the biggest of them, displaying her hooded crown, formidable in energetic size and regal in physical shape. Her scales and eyes were more detailed and weathered than the others, yet also more vivid in color. Nukolo could feel that she was the kind of creature who had stories upon stories to tell, counsel to share, and warnings to give. The eminent looked upon her aura with adoration, finally regaining some semblance of movement throughout their frame. At this point, all they could do was plant their knee, fist, and forehead firmly to the ground in reverence. My children, you have brought me my most savory offering yet. The mob of cobra hisses intensified, objecting to Ananti's supposition. No, Ananti, we have called you for counsel. Which of us shall bite this heart and draw the blood of the ocean? Which of our venom shall... I did not raise fools. It is my venom and mine alone which will be both poison and antidote to this heart. Upon hearing this, her serpentine brood immediately bowed their many heads in respect, mirroring the Emin. Ananti elongated her neck about 3 times the height that Nu was kneeling, keeping her reptilian eyes focused, almost unbearably sharp upon their breastbone. Then she began to circle around their body, slowly. I apologize for this conflict, Newman. My children are still growing. Something deep in Nu's bones knew better than to even think of forgiving her. There was nothing to forgive. Everything was as it should have been, and would always be. Throughout their whole life, nobody pined for their heart like this. Not a soul came close. But is that what love is? The eminent thought to themselves. Nukolo had yet to discern between someone desiring them and someone valuing them, and the longing and the lust, the sense of perfectly timed trust. It was a feeling of which they simply could not get enough. She continued her circles around Nu in efficient roundabouts, her paths of least resistances massaging the Emin's entire body until finally forcing their muscles to undulate in a bittersweet reaction to the push and pull. After I bite, you must grab the jars and run back to the lake. There is no time to waste. My children will not be able to control themselves after smelling the leaking of your heart, and neither will I. Knowing the eminent took heed to her words of advice, her revolutions quickened. The relaxation afforded by her movements seemed to have loosened all of Nu's musculature to a point of sublime reflexivity. Flexibility. Good. I have embraced your mind. Now you will learn to do the same for yourself. And when we meet again, I shall see if my gifts have been properly wielded. Her energy wrote out her words like cascades of magic water upon the reflective scales of her lithe body, giving way to Nukolo's core and heating it to a point of intense blaze with no return. The eminent had become the eye within the storm, the sunshine supreme, which always found a way to chant its ephemeral music through the clouds, with eyes now the very same shade of shimmering golden amber that had once seeped so serenely from Dingonek's irises. Nukolo glared willfully into the Serpent Queen's pupils of pitch black. Like two emerald green scepters, her fangs crossed the stony, lonesome heart of Nu in a coalescence of neon brilliance, impaling the Emin from their upper back to just below their rib cage and out their stomach, as if to echo the bite. A sound from all the way inside the most microscopic center point of Nukolo's body rippled forth in primal resonance. Ananti promptly dislodged her jaw, nonchalantly leaving the two 4-foot fangs behind. She began picking up as much speed as she could, knowing the vapor from the heart of Nu would be too enticing for her to resist. Then, just as she secured victory over the temptation, every pair of her offspring trembled into formation, crossing one another in resemblance of the fangs. At first, they only lightly quivered. It seemed that they, like their mother, were also trying to resist the allure of leaking love. Somehow, even with the agony accompanying, Nukolo appreciated their consideration. The brashness of the brood's writhing intensified in direct correspondence with the flares of hurt that had been rhythmically established from palpitations in Nu's heart. This new beat spread throughout all cores of all living beings on the island. For an evanescent moment, all was still. Now, go, she thundered, and don't take them out until you're fully submerged and underwater again. Her voice quaked the entire island, trees gossiping to one another in their rustlings, and flocks of birds taking those very same secrets to the sky. Nukolo's envenomated body surrendered to complete delirium, yet they still remained lucid enough to grab the jars and book it. One obsidian, one nacre, and once more held firmly in the palms of their hands, but the poisonous stumble back to the ocean possessed every other part of their body, and yet it was more than that. Maybe there was some sense of comfort felt in obeying the command of the one who was now literally one with their heart. Either way, the journey back was a grueling affair, and one that would be forever marked by the blending of the blood of the eminent Nukolo and the venom of the Serpent Queen Ananti. With every passing step Nu took, the ground that met their soles was left at the temperature, consistency, and radiation of molten lava. Where once there were moist, comforting leaves to welcome their arrival, now were only the burnt, skeletal remnants of their former glories, blackened with ash by the combustion of their latest initiation. As Nu staggered on in nigh delirious pain, the jungle turned back into the beach, and their eyes met the rising sun, mirroring the trail behind, still blazing. The light concerned the Emin for the sake of being seen by the fishermen who'd come early to catch their fill. If the bioluminescence would ever fail to identify them, then the newly torched, smokeless heart fire was sure to succeed. So, Nukolo fell into the calm waters as quickly as the forces of gravity and silence would allow. Billowing clouds of steam shot up in reaction to the contact their decoalescent body made with the cool lake's surface. Relief occurred, and the heat began to leave. They remained still in the same spot for a moment, as if to allow the lake to acclimate to the new temperature. Thankfully, as soon as her lakehood received them in full, the pain began to slowly relieve itself. Wasting no time, Nu swam directly for the deepest part, in and down. None of the fishing boats in the distance caught a glimpse, and all that the eminent left behind were glass footprints burnt finely into the sandy shore. Namu. 381 days. They called my mother Kwatna. It means mountain in one of the dialects of our walking kin. We have those too under the waves. Dialects. They called me Namu. It means place of high winds in another one of the dialects of our walking kin. At least now, she and I, we are together in moniker.